I've got 4:30, and good evening to all. Good to see you people who are present in the house, and our co-host Miss Thea is in one of the villages, and I don't know what kind of connectivity she may have, so we may or may not have the Zoom feature. If she gets in, she said she would make Jazz the host, or whatever. But if not, we'll go forward, and we'll go ahead and get started. Miss Lexis Johnson from the Housing and Homelessness Department, the coordinator, is supposed to join us. She's supposed to be ready to go at 4:30, so I was going to adjust the agenda to accommodate her for 10 or 15 minutes so she could get to something else. But I don't know, if she's trying to Zoom, she's not going to get in. If she comes in, we'll let her get in where she fits in, and we'll go ahead with our agenda at this particular point with welcome and introductions. I am Pastor Leon May, one of the co-chairs of the committee, and we'll go.
I'm Lucy Hansen, Polynesian Association.
Yeah, we should try to. They can't hear us unless we.
Yes, I said I should. Yeah, this
I think we're recording. Do we record these?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in order to be heard, you have to do this.
Want to go again?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
All right, Leon
Sorry.
May, one of the co-chairs of the committee.
Lucy Hansen, Polynesian Association of Alaska.
And I'm Candace Bell, representing Alaska Rainbow Elders.
Yeah, it is a little strange to be in a room with sort of few people and feel microphone. My name is Cameron Perez-Verdia. I serve on the Anchorage Assembly. I'm representing the West Side. Good to see everybody.
My name is Asher Harley. I'm here representing Temple Beth Shalom.
Hi everyone, this is John Ryan Estate, Board President of LASES, and also from the Healthy and Equitable Communities Units from the state of Alaska.
Scott Lee, Municipality of Anchorage Internal Audit.
Alrighty, thank you all for your sharing of your introductions and what have you. And Taffy was scheduled for the Land and Labor Acknowledgement, and he probably would have tried to get in by Zoom. And so I don't know if someone was prepared for one or not, but if not, I'll read the one we have as a sample here. We acknowledge that the land that now makes up the United States of America was the traditional home, hunting ground, trade exchange point, and migration route of more than 574 American Indian and Alaska Native federally recognized tribes, and many more tribal nations that are not federally recognized or no longer exist. We recognize the cruel legacy of slavery and colonialism in our nation and acknowledge the people whose labor was exploited for generations to help establish the economy of the United States. We honor indigenous, enslaved, and immigrant peoples' resilience, labor, and stewardship of the land, and commit to creating a future founded on respect, justice, and inclusion for all people as we work to heal the deepest generational wounds. And thus is our Land and Labor Acknowledgement. All righty. Next up, good to see you, Ms. Celeste. You want to tell us who you are?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Celeste, President and CEO of the Alaska Black Caucus.
All right, good to see you, Ben.
Thank you.
Yeah. All righty. Then we'll move right along into our unfinished business. And first up, we have the update on language access audit with Mr. Scott Lee, who's present with us, the acting internal audit director.
Brother Chair, I'm Scott Lee. I'm acting director of the internal audit department. Every year, end of November, maybe beginning of December, we send a request to each assembly members and all department heads within the municipality of Anchorage, request the audit suggestion. And last year, Assemblyman Rivera requested the audit of language access program within the municipality. That request was approved in our audit plan, was endorsed by municipal audit committee and approved by the municipal assembly. So, along with the other audit requests, in our annual audit plan, we finally get to do the language access audit. We'll probably announce the audit in next week or so, and we expect the audit probably last with about a month or 2 months before we release the final report. Any questions?
Okay. Mr. Lee, we thank you for that update. And my recollection tells me that the last report we had was similar to this one. We're not quite ready with the audit. So at this particular point, we kind of in a holding situation. And so anyone have questions for Mr. Lee? Just Cameron?
Sure.
And then we'll go this way.
Oh, thanks. Thank you for being here. Just a couple of clarifying questions. You said that the audit has not begun. Is that correct?
That is correct. Matter of fact, the audit has not been even announced yet.
Oh, I
And
see.
we are expecting to announce the audit within next week or so.
Okay. And then once the audit is announced, what is your estimation in terms of how long it'll take?
Our audit has 3 phases. First, we have to do the preliminary survey. Basically, we go to the crash course to get smart, what we are facing to. Then we put together the audit program based on the result of the preliminary survey. Then we will conduct the field work and do the testing based on the audit program we put together. Then after the field work we put together, we will start writing the report. So I expect for this type of audit, from announcing, doing the survey, and doing the field work and writing the report and releasing the report, we are expecting about 2 months.
So, Chair, can I just ask one more question?
Go ahead.
Thanks. So I'm curious about the scope of the audit and particularly what we're looking for. So when you say language access, I'm curious about whether we're auditing the effectiveness of the current systems that we have and whether they are working or not. So I'm curious about just generally what we're looking for, and then the second part of it is there a standard or a basis that you're using to compare to? So what is an effective system, or what is effective the language access? So those 2 things, what generally the scope, and then is there something that we're using as a comparison?
Gotcha, yes. Scope of the audit, we usually narrow it down as a result of the preliminary survey. However, municipality released the PMP 16-6 language access program. That PMP was put together during the Mayor Berkowitz, and that became effective in September 2018. And that PMP provides basic guideline for how municipality will have the language access program and how it's going to be maintained and tested. So that will be our criteria for this audit mainly.
Gotcha. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. You answered some of my questions, but I have 2 questions. One is, do you encounter any barriers to not be able to finish this in 2 or 3 months?
I don't see any barriers at this time, but you never know what will happen within next 2 months. But I expect that this audit will go pretty smooth, and everything goes right. In 2 months, we'll be able to release the report.
Excellent, thank you. And my other question is, so I'm assuming that this audit has also you guys are looking to, if you're in compliance with Title VI, right? From federal law. Is this something that it will be included in your audit?
Yes, although we will use our PMP 16-6 as a primary criteria, we'll also evaluate if the 16-6 satisfy the requirement of the federal regulation.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And let me say this, and then we'll hear some last, and then we'll get a second question down on this end. A few months back, when we had the audit department in, the messaging was that it would be a couple of months out, and now we're at another point, a couple of months, 2 or 3 months down the road, and the messaging is still a couple of months out. So, what would be a reasonable, really, expectation rather than just keep saying a couple of months out?
Through the chair, I'm not trying to make any excuses. However, our Office of Internal Audit went through some transitions. Our department director resigned in July, and I took over. So I'm currently acting right now, but we have other 2 auditors. They are wrapping up. They are currently assigned the project. So we were going to start the audit as soon as they wrap up their project, but they still have not quite finished yet. However, when I said we are going to announce the audit within next week, I'm going to assign myself as an auditor. So I'm the one who will be doing this audit. So I can pretty much promise we will be able to release the report within 2 months.
Thank you so much.
So that brings up another question that I have a total of 2 questions. And my first one is, how many employees do you currently have within your department? I'm just curious.
To the chair, we probably are one of the smallest department within the municipality. Entire department staff made of 60 employees. Current minus 1 vacancy we have. So currently we have 5 employees. Myself, 2 senior auditors, and 1 ASD auditors. That portion is funded by the Anchorage School District and only does the school district related audit. And we have 1 part-time audit technician to do the administrative work. That's it.
It just seems to me that the departments that really could help us move the needle have the lowest number of employees to do the work. And so I think about ADRC, I think about OEO, I think about the audit. It's just interesting to me and problematic. So my question is, my other one is, what about individuals that aren't employees of the city but utilize city businesses? And so I'm thinking of those that utilize transit. Will you be conducting interviews with individuals outside of the municipal employee structure but that utilize municipal services?
Through the chair, we are internal auditors, so usually our audit scope is limited within the municipal business. However, if municipality has the contract with outside agency, so through the grant contract, we can also audit them as well.
All right. Will you give a welcome introduction and ask a question?
Hi, Mr. Lee. My name is Lori Pickett, and I'm the Executive Director of Alaska Literacy Program. And I appreciate you being here today. Language access is something I'm incredibly passionate about, so I could probably talk to you for hours, but I'll try to keep it short. So you talked about when you're going to do a survey, and I'm hearing that that's like an internal survey of your different departments. And I'm unclear how you will actually know how the system is working without people who are using the system being surveyed and interviewed about the language access that they will potentially be needing from the departments.
To assess the effectiveness of language access program municipality has, we will interview the actual user of it if we can. Also, another thing we are going to look at is that we have the complaint link for people who had a problem with the language access program. We look at those complaints that have been filed and nature of the complaint as well.
I'm unaware of that line that we can complain on about language access, and so if I'm unaware of it, I'm certain most people who are trying to gain access would probably be unaware as well. So I would encourage you to look further. Another thing is that I know the municipality uses Language Link, which is like you can get an over-the-phone translator, or you can use it for interpretation or translation services. And I think it would be very critical to look at how that's being used within the different departments, because they will produce really good reports about which department's using it, how many, what languages they're using it for, that type of thing, and then comparing it to the demographics of our city and the languages that the city uses to see how that looks. So I would really recommend that. I've asked for that data before, so I would love to see that data in the audit in a way in which we can access that publicly so that we can see. And then, I would say that I invite you to Alaska Literacy Program to do a listening session there with at least our staff in English. But the only way you're going to be able to do a language access audit is to be prepared to do it in many languages and to do it in person and other things if you're going to survey people who are using the system.
I think you're absolutely right. I have looked at the monthly billing for the language link invoice, and that showed the detail of how many services we had to provide it for which department and for which language, and they provided those statistics on every month billing. So that's just something we are definitely going to look at it as well.
Good. We did hear in another meeting in an assembly work session that we're aware that some departments are unaware of what their access codes are, even for language link, due to turnover at this time. And so I think that will give you a good idea of who needs some education. And the other thing that we see as well is that within the municipality, agencies sometimes do a good job of posting their language access plans on a website, only in English. And then when we are trying to access services through the municipality, the actual direct employees are unaware of that language access plan, how to access it, how to use it. And so anything you can do to systems test during the audit, that would be really appreciated for us to get a really good baseline. And all data that you gather, I would love to see, as would I think several members of this committee, and thank you for allowing me to say so much.
Thank you very much. And I am second language speaker myself. You probably have noticed already. So I know it is important to have an unbiased view when you perform an audit. But this one, I may have to find myself to have an unbiased view, because when I was looking at this language link and other part of the municipal website, my feeling was common with what you just felt. So I'll try my best.
I have to say I was excited to learn from you that English is not your first language, so I know that you will be compassionate about this work, and I look forward to your audit. Thank you.
Thank you. Matter of fact, my wife when she first came to this country, she learned her English from Alaska Literacy Program. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your questions and sharing. And what my understanding was that part of this process and our inclusion in it relative to this meeting point was so that you could get some input that you could use in the auditing process. And I think you've gleaned a lot in that regard. And my idea of an audit is that you get the pluses and the minuses of how the system is working and its design. And so we'll look forward to that in a couple of months and see where we land.
Chair, can I ask this?
Yes, sir.
One more statement.
Just, I appreciate that this meeting is on the record and it's being recorded. I just wanted to add that that it's audits like this that help us to learn and become better. And sometimes they can feel like, an attack or that we're doing something wrong. And I think this in particular is such an opportunity for us to learn from it and for us to improve language access for the city. And so I just wanted to sort of put that on the record that I hope everyone, both the administration, the assembly, and all the folks that are involved will see this as an opportunity for us to really get a fair look at what's going on now and how we can improve it. So thanks.
Can I ask
All
one
right,
question?
yes.
Really quick thing. Is there, or have you ever contracted out for jobs? I'm just wondering if there might be an opportunity to do that since you're.
The municipality uses an external auditor to perform our financial audits. Our office is strictly performing the performance audits and contract compliance audits. And for our work, I don't remember we ever contracted out for our services.
So my understanding of that question, was that the answer you were seeking, or were you asking about hiring others for the auditing department?
I was just listening to the responses and the fact that you have very limited employees, and it just seems like there's a lot of audit requests out there, and how, the backlog. And so I was just wondering if you've ever contracted out your services or to get assistance.
Right.
If I remember correctly, we had recommended contracting out certain type of audits that we believe that we lacked expertise, such as IT audits. Currently, we do not have IT auditors in our department. So if there was a certain request for a complicated IT audit, we may recommend to contract out to perform such audit.
I have a question. Thank you, Mr. Lee. I'm Lucy Henson. I speak Samoan as well, and we have a lot of our Pacific Island that speak their Pacific Island language. And I was just wondering if the municipality have this audit, whatever it is that you're supposed to do it, and it didn't work in the past or never done in the past. Maybe now, because Anchorage is so diverse and we have so many languages, maybe we could look at different, because I'm thinking about what you said about the survey. And if you do this and you're planning to do it inside audit and survey, just like she was saying that, how are you going to be able to get all the languages in this survey? Because if you're not working with communities that has different languages, we're never going to get a good audit on this language access. So I'm just a recommendation that, and something that you can think about, maybe you can open it out to the public, not just the school district or whatever that the community used to do before. It's different now that we need to open out to the community in 2 different languages. That will get a better total of audit of what we need to look at.
All right, any other questions or commentaries? All right, hearing none, thank you, Mr. Lee, for being here today and for sharing with our committee. Thank you so much. All righty, then we're gonna move forward along with our agenda, and I see we've included our online folk, and we're glad about that. And we'll go ahead and revert back and get some welcomes and intros for those of you who are online. Ms. Thea, it's good to see you for a moment in the midst, and would you like to say good evening? Can you hear me, Thea? Yeah.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. So sorry about not having the Zoom open at the right time. I was having a hard time getting a connection here, but good to see you all.
Good to be seen. All righty. Let's have some intros. Heather?
Hi, Heather Ireland with Anchorage School-Based Health Centers.
All
And I would just add that, being in the schools, we definitely see kids that have language issues, and we use a phone interpreter thing, but it is pricey. But we just like to use it so it makes sure that we are getting accurate health information from the student and communicating clearly to them that they're understanding in their language.
All righty, thank you. Marie?
That's me. Hello, everyone. Marie Husa. I am a member of the Alaska Federation of Filipino Americans.
Hey, good to see you. All right, Teresa? Teresa, are you there?
Hi. Hi, this is Brittany with Cook Inlet Tribal Council.
All right, Brittany. Thank you. All right,
Sorry,
Teresa.
this is Teresa Holt with AARP Alaska.
All righty. Mr. Rivera.
Hi everyone, Felix Rivera here, Anchorage Assembly.
Glad all you guys could get in. Sir?
Matthew Hurt, Legislative Council.
All righty.
Through the chair, I believe Toffee is on the phone as well.
Okay. You said on the phone? Okay. Hello, Toffee.
Hi, thanks so much for the Committee of Alaska. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. Okay, so that kind of brings us up to speed with those welcomes and intros and all of that. And what I will do at this particular point is kind of jumble up our agenda for a moment. We had scheduled housing and homelessness discussion with the health department. Ms. Alexis Johnson was scheduled to be with us, but she's not here at this particular point, and so we'll move forward with that. But while we have Thea in our midst for a moment, she's going to have to catch a flight in a little bit. I don't know how long she'll be able to stay with us, but we'll move to, are there any updates as it relates to the Certified Welcoming Subcommittee? I know Mara is out of the state, and so I don't know if you guys have anything for us at this point or not.
Is that about the welcoming communities? Is that what you said, Pastor May?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think, and Felix had a question about this beforehand. Right. So we did, I think, just identify a small committee a couple of meetings ago to look into the certification process and kind of bring it back to the committee. And I think our next step is really and what we could discuss tonight is, the certification process looks interesting and good, and our only kind of comment with it is we want it to be welcoming community to everybody, not only people who are coming in from another country or another community. But it's quite a robust process, and it really would need a municipal lead, and so that seems like it could be the equity officer, and wondering if the committee has any thoughts on if we should request that, or just maybe some discussion on what our next step would be if we do want the municipality to enter into that process.
Okay. Thank you, Thea. Anybody have any idea? Felix. Oh, Felix, yes.
It's like something's trying to get her. Yeah, somebody wants it.
Hi everyone. So first, before I talk about certified welcoming, I just want to note for the record that Alexis Johnson was on or trying to get on the Zoom at 4:30. So she was here promptly at 4:30, but unfortunately she did have to leave, so she won't be able to give her presentation. So specifically on certified welcoming, the Assembly approved a resolution at our Assembly meeting earlier this week, essentially supporting the municipality of Anchorage moving forward with the certified welcoming process. And that resolution specifically speaks to both the executive and the legislative. The executive really being represented by the chief equity officer, and the legislative being represented by assembly members, working with, in an advisory role, the Anchorage Equity Committee, moving forward with this process. So that is the resolution that was approved, and I did get confirmation from the mayor's chief of staff at the assembly meeting that they will be allowing the chief equity officer to work on certified welcoming in some capacity. And so I've requested a meeting with Junior to start moving things forward on the certified welcoming process, and look forward to keeping you all in the loop as that happens.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Felix, and that's
awesome.
That's a good note. Yeah, that is a good note that they're allowing him to do that and working with you guys and allowing us in an advisory capacity. Hey, good. Glad that it passed. Any questions for Felix? Alrighty, we're all good on that particular point.
I'm sorry, could I have
Yes.
just a clarification? Is when we're talking about the updated certified welcoming committee that Felix was speaking on, are we talking about also the ordinance that passed?
Oh, excuse me. Yes, ma'am. What we're talking about here, that update certified welcoming committee, that should have been update certified welcoming subcommittee, which Thea just spoke to about the subcommittee, and Felix was indeed talking about the ordinance of the resolution that passed. Yeah.
Can I comment on that?
Sure, and I just want to point out that I think under item C, 3C, there's a number of updates in there. And I think welcoming week was one of them.
It is.
And then there's a number of other ones. I think.
Right,
Okay.
we hadn't gotten those others yet. We were taking it as he brought it. Yes.
Thank you. I got
Yes.
confused there about how it's going.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, we kind of jumping around to get some things in while we have folks online.
Can I just
Yes.
share that I think it's really important, something that Thea said, that we discussed in this group, and that is, we want this to be about the community and inclusive of everyone. And so I really appreciate what Felix shared, and that represents the municipal component piece. But I'm just wondering if there might be an opportunity to, on that core committee, to have a member of this group or someone representing the community participate as well, to help make sure that it is centered around the entire community and not just the municipality, if that makes sense, municipal structure.
Did you copy that? Yes. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I'm happy to respond. Absolutely, that is front of mind for me, and I am just, like I said earlier, I have requested a meeting with Junior to really kickstart the process, and the way that certified welcoming works is the lead agency in that certified welcoming process has to be the local government. It can't be anyone else. But it doesn't mean that community can't be involved, and so I will be talking to Junior when we eventually meet about what I'm hoping the process looks like. And I've already envisioned robust community conversations in the process, as well as I think someone had talked about sort of the expansion beyond just immigrants and refugees. And this is something that I mentioned at the assembly meeting on Tuesday, is that welcoming Anchorage itself, although mirrored off of welcoming America, is really tailored to the needs of our community. And so it is more expansive than welcoming America, which typically focuses on immigrants and refugees. So in that same vein, I fully intend that the certified welcoming process will also mirror the intent of welcoming Anchorage, which is to be more expansive than just immigrants and refugees. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Felix. And that point that you just brought up was indeed the point that I brought up at our last session and conversation on this, embracing the entire community and what have you. And so thank you for that. Now, the other thing is, as far as inclusion, you did say, and I think that's what I repeated, but you did say that the AEC, this particular committee, would serve in an advisory capacity to both arms of the local government. Is that correct?
Yes, the resolution does state, the one that we approved, that the Anchorage Equity Committee will be serving in an advisory capacity for this work. Yep.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Any other commentary, questions on that as it relates to that? All righty then, thank you so much. And then we'll go back and Cam to pick up C. We've had the status of the welcoming week. The resolution is approved. And then also there is language access and the naming panel, which I think that panel was the 9-person panel. But all right, any statuses on those others? Felix or Cam?
I think
Felix can update on AO 2023-90S that was passed as well, which deals with both language access and also some language changes for the Chief Equity Officer. Felix, do you want to give an update on that?
Yeah, thanks. So AO 2023-90, which the Assembly approved on Tuesday, dealt with a few different things. It dealt with basically ensuring that we are following the federal regulations and providing accountability and transparency on a few different programs. The DBE program, the Equal Employment Opportunity Program, the Affirmative Action Plan, and I might be missing one, but language access. And then aside from those 4 parts, it also added some language which really mirrors the job description of the Chief Equity Officer to provide some baseline equity data among a few different categories: education, healthcare, access to municipal resources, and there was one other one that I'm forgetting. So that was approved, and looking forward to how the administration is going to implement it. The administration did raise a variety of logistical concerns, but I'm fairly certain I will be able to work with them to make sure that this gets implemented, and hopefully this committee will eventually see some reporting coming out from the Chief Equity Officer and all of the other accountability measures that were put in the ordinance. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for those accountability measures as well. Lori.
So Felix, I guess I sat in that meeting and I felt a little bit differently about parts of it based on what you're sharing, because I sort of heard from the mayor's office and from our current equity officer that there really was a belief and understanding that we are in compliance and there are no equity issues. So I didn't really feel that there was any will from the current situation to move forward with that. So I'm glad that you're feeling positive about that. I feel like there's a real distinction between meeting a low bar of compliance on certain boxes that we're able to check and actually having the direct experience of those with lived experience gaining equity and equal access to our municipal government. And I didn't leave there as positive as you did. And I did go and testify on language access. Thank you, Cameron, for giving me the opportunity to finish my statement. But it was it wasn't a very warm, friendly room about it. So correct me if I'm wrong, Felix, but I left feeling much different.
Yeah, no, I think your perceptions are fairly accurate. So one of the things that we heard at the work session that we had on this ordinance, which I think, Lori, you were there for, was claims from the administration that all of these things are being done. So one of the things that many assembly members stated, including myself, is that if these things are being done, then please share them with the assembly and share them with the public. And during my debate on the ordinance, I was fairly clear that this ordinance is not breaking ground, and it wasn't really meant to break ground. It was meant to be a foundation and to make sure that we are meeting even the most basic foundational pieces that federally we must meet and we really should be meeting as a community. So this is certainly a start, and I hope to build on it. And I know that that's where some members of this committee are. You are looking many yards down the line, farther than we are right now. And so I appreciate y'all's patience while we try to get things caught up to maybe where folks here want them to be.
All righty, and we're definitely trying to pull the yard markers in, Mr. Felix. We're trying to pull those yard markers in a little bit closer. You mentioned about the accountability aspect, and one of the things I've stated in the past is that the prior chief equity officer, whatever, lost his gig because of what we believe. It might not be factually true, but because of what we believe was an unfavorable report on the status of the government in a certain area, and shortly after that report came out, he lost his job. And so we speak about accountability. I'm thinking in terms of putting some teeth into the process where the chief equity officer would be required to point out those areas that are inequitable rather than just signing off and signing on to everything that the municipality is about, and a big pat on the back and a hoorah, and kind of say, hey, we've fallen short in this area, kind of thing. That's kind of what that's what I meant by pulling the markers in a little closer, so to speak. But that's just my little take on it.
Sure.
Yes.
Can I add something to it?
Yes.
Thanks. So I just want to give a little bit of detail. One of the things that this ordinance did is it codified some of the, as Felix said, the original idea of this position, this chief equity officer position, and put it into an ordinance. And so it says the chief equity officer, this is the added language, the chief equity officer shall be responsible for analyzing and identifying systemic inequities in the municipality, specifically addressing, but not limited to, the following: educational opportunities and outcomes, economic opportunities and outcomes, physical and mental wellness and access to resources, and the overall access to and provision of municipal services. And it goes on to say, based on this analysis, the chief equity officer shall establish, collect, evaluate equity baseline data, targets, performance indicators, and progress benchmarks for addressing systemic disparities, and shall submit a semi-annual report to the Assembly and the Mayor in the form of a memorandum with accurate data and recommendations for continued improvement regarding race and equity policy issues and long-range plans. It goes on, but what I think all of us who were involved in the original creation of this position and this work, the entire idea was not to hire somebody at executive level and have them primarily do community outreach, which is what we've been doing, and that's not important. It's very important, but there is a sort of vital need for us to get real data about what's happening in our city in terms of equitable allocation of resources and the impacts of our current policies, and how they're in many ways perpetuating oppression. And so for us to be able to get good data, look at it, and then make policy decisions or the allocation of resources to decisions based on that information is what we were hoping to have. And so what this, I think, does is it puts, as Felix says, a little bit of teeth in it for us to say, we need this information, and we need the person who's in the office to help to provide that. Anyway, the other thing I was going to say is just that with new members of the Assembly coming on, I've spoken to a couple of them just after that meeting, and it was clear that they weren't clear on what the original intention for this position was, and did not know that what's happening has not been fully what we had hoped for or what we expected. So I just want to add that I think what this language does is it adds some opportunity for us to re-engage in some of these conversations and potentially hold the person in that position and the administration accountable for getting the data that we need.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that, and Mr. Perez-Padilla and Mr. Rivera. My concern with this whole deal is this: we've got some things on paper as it relates to an ordinance, And my understanding is because of his position and working for the admin side and under that auspices and guidance, that still can be sort of a sheltered deal, so to speak. And I guess what can we do other than possibly trying to put some heat on the administration side of it, so that they can really, I mean, it's on paper, but they can really push to have, in effect, what you guys have written come to pass. Yeah. Unless you have any, go ahead.
I also think it's a very unfair position to put an individual in where their boss is asking them to do outreach.
Yeah.
And they are doing that, and they are doing that well. And then the assembly is saying, this is what we're expecting from the job. And if I were an individual in that position, I wouldn't know how to behave as an employee. And I feel that that's just an unrealistic position to put any individual in, and expect them to be able to succeed and to expect them to be able to work in that environment. And so I really just don't know what to do about that, because Junior is he is a very warm individual. I've enjoyed my conversations with him, and I feel like he's been put in an impossible position, and I don't want to do anything in my desire to have equity data and to work on this issue to at all feel as though I'm criticizing an individual for being put in a very difficult position. I wish Junior was placed in a position where community outreach was his job description in all people's eyes, and he would do that and do that well, and he's a great asset to our community. At the same time, I am desperate for accurate data so that we can work on system changes, and that was the position designed to help us get there. And I feel just really uncomfortable about this and how it feels so targeted on a particular individual, because they're the ones that hold that only job. And I just want to say that because I'm fighting for the data, and I want the data, and I want to see how we can improve the systems, but I don't want to feel as if I'm attacking a particular individual who is doing exactly what his supervisors asked me to do. I've said that 5 times, but I appreciate it.
Yes, and I appreciate that, Laura, from my perspective, when we get Celeste. But my thinking on that is this: it puts him in a compromising position, but he is in that position. And I've said on a number of occasions in this meeting that for me, it's not personal. It's the job description that we have to deal with. It's not personal with Junior. I mean, Junior is an affable person, and I've communicated with him as well in various settings. And it's not personal. It's not against Junior. It's about the job description and what's supposed to happen. And somebody has to hold the line on the job description. And so that was my thinking a minute ago, is that we probably need to deal stronger with the administration and get the administration to get in line with what the ordinance states and what we expect from that position. And I think that's what we have to go hard at, the administration side of it, so we can get lined up. Celeste.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know some on this committee might not appreciate these comments, but I've been in the trenches advocating for civil rights for a long time. I've worked for this municipality for 20-something years, retired, and we've waited long enough for this opportunity to finally move the needle when it comes to equity. And I don't feel bad about sharing the need to move this along, for us to get the equity that we've been fighting for the various departments, for the employees. What about those individuals? That's what I'm talking about. So I appreciate what the Assembly did in passing that ordinance, making it stronger so that we can get down to really doing the work. I love going to gatherings, don't get me wrong. I love eating good food, but that's not the time for this position, not this work. So that's all I have to say. I do not apologize.
Can I say?
Taffy has her hand up.
So this is Taffy. I applaud the ordinance and the assembly for creating the ordinance. And as we move forward, I also want to bring up the my thought around equity. Right? It's important to put someone in the position, but also put support around it. Right? And so we talked about like the audit earlier, and how there is a lack of employees in those positions, in those the auditor's office. And if they are auditing the same policies, they're not going to see it. And I feel like that's where they're coming up with their conclusion that there's nothing to report, because they're auditing old things, right? Like they're auditing policies from the past, and the work that we're trying to do is different from what they used to have in the past. And so I also feel that there's a need to maybe add some support around Junior. I don't know if he, in his job description, if there's like education around equity and education around data collection and data analysis. I don't know if he's aware of those things, and he has, or if he has the capacity, right? Or people are supporting him that way at his current position. And so I feel that if the assembly is going to also add on all these things that we want them to do, whoever's in that position, I would like for them to have the support that they need in order for them to be successful in the position that they're in. And I feel like right now it's only Junior in that position, and there's no one else to support him. And so that would be my request.
All right, thank you, Taffy, for that input. And whoever works in whatever position, I would say thoroughly needs support in that position. And but at the same time, he's charged with that position, and we need some results. Yes. Felix. Okay.
Hi. So a couple comments. First, since you all have mentioned the internal audit folks a couple times already. So I also serve as the chair of the Municipal Audit Committee, and over the years since I've served on that committee, I have asked that particular department about the kind of resources that they need and the ability for them to do their work. And I think right now, probably because of the vacancy, they're a little bit short-staffed, but by and large, they haven't really told me that they need additional staff, but I'm happy to have that conversation again with them. Specific to the Chief Equity Officer, there was some conversation at the Assembly meeting on Tuesday about the possibility of adding in some contractual support to help the Chief Equity Officer do this kind of work. I'm open to that idea. I will say, though, that almost immediately after that idea was mentioned, the mayor did, on the record, scoff at that idea. He did not like the idea of having that kind of additional budget. So just so you know where that political landscape is. Thanks.
All righty.
This is Jill. Can I ask something?
Yes.
I am also part of as I mentioned earlier when I was there in person, I'm part of the Healthy and Equitable Communities Unit at the state, and I met with Junior and I told him that we could be a resource for him. So I just want to offer my services to the assembly to see if I can be of any assistance to Junior as well with any kind of resources or guidelines through the state. So just want to offer my services on that, Felix and any other assembly member.
Yeah. All righty. Thank you, Joe.
This is Lucy.
All righty.
I'm just sitting here and listening, but it's really kind of like Tudor's in the middle of this whole thing between the assembly and between the mayor or the administration. I believe that he know and he understand what his job function is, but I believe that he's probably in a tight position that where he can make that. And I also believe that if we, I wish that he was here today so he could talk. But I know that there's a data that we need to collect is very important. And I believe that if the position is written down as the ordinance is what this job is, it should be done that way. And whoever is hired to do that job should be follow the ordinance. So I think that we need to keep pushing it to him. And I don't know, what else that we can do, but I think there should be something that we can do in order for him to complete what the ordinance says. So we really need to, maybe he had too much work that is offered to do outside of whatever his position is supposed to do. Maybe then that's where an extra help will come in, but just listening to what Felix was saying that it was chopped down by the mayor, that he doesn't need this. So it is something that we need to do. And I'm just sitting here and listening to all the options, and everything that we said here is very good. And I think that we could look more into it.
Yeah, and let me say this for Lucy and others who are here and online, and that is this. The ordinance, the way I understand it, is to provide a guideline and put some teeth into what is expected from that position as it relates to the legislative branch. But by virtue of the fact that Junior works directly under the administrative branch, who is supervisor to Junior, it makes it kind of hard unless that supervising position in the administrative branch co-signs on the ordinance and says, okay, this is the direction that we have to go. And if the administrative branch does not do that, then you have a continued conflict in that position. And so that was my reasoning for saying earlier that maybe we have to put some kind of pressure on the administrative branch to line up with the expectation of the legislative branch.
I just want to pose a suggestion. This committee could invite the mayor to the next meeting for a conversation about this specifically, and talk about this role and Junior as well, and have a conversation about what he sees as the role and the expectations for that role, and how this committee can support Junior in this work, because they're aligned in terms of at least in terms of the language of the job position and the language for this committee. So it might be something that the co-chairs might consider, to have a conversation directly with the mayor and Junior at the next meeting or future meeting, whenever they're available. So thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Cam, and I think that would be a great idea to get us jump started, moving in the right direction. And we'll get together, co-chairs, and look at the agenda. I know we'll have to be bringing back the home and homelessness coordinator at another meeting, if not the next meeting, but we'll try to get that scheduled. Yes, that'll be a good way to go at it, and let the mayor tell us what his expectations of that position and where we need to go from there.
And the timing couldn't be better.
Yeah.
With the election coming up.
Yeah. All righty. Okay, any other commentary or questions while we're passing that way? All right, anything on the naming panel?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit.
Yes.
So just 2 items on there, and if others, Felix or others won't want to speak to it. So not this last meeting, but the meeting before that, the Assembly passed an ordinance essentially rewriting all of the municipal code, municipal law in terms of how things are named within the city, and I believe it passed unanimously by the Assembly, which is a whole new way of looking at how we name things. So It establishes a commission, a naming commission, and it identifies particular seats for that commission that are people who come from a background of being a historian or people who have experience in DEI work. And there's a seat that is intended to be recommended by the native village of Akludna. And so there's a variety of seats there, bringing different types of expertise to the work, and then also a number of just open seats for community members. For community members to fill. It also establishes a really clear set of guidelines for how that commission will evaluate both what should be named and what should be named, and the types of priorities that are there. So it's a pretty comprehensive new system that I'm very excited about. And one of the reasons is because it allows us to think about, again, the long term. You know, what is the identity of our city, and how can we work towards having what's named be representative of the diversity of our city, but also begin to shape how we name things into what this place is and what it's been. It also stops a process that has been going on a long time, which is naming panels right now are essentially where a group of people who someone potentially in their family passes away or a public official passes away, and they want to name them after something. They don't know what it is. They just want to honor that person in a certain way. And if it's a family member, for instance, if your brother passed and he was a coach of a soccer league and you really want him to be honored, then maybe you're looking for a soccer field that he should be named after, that sort of thing. So the mayor it currently puts two people on the panel, and the assembly recommends 2 people, and it's usually a panel of 4. But the problem is that they've already decided that they're going to name something after this person, so they're not really considering other names. And they typically don't even go, I think, from my experience working with them, through the process of considering indigenous names or really looking at the history of that place or considering other kinds of names. And so it's been a strange process that's been in place for a long time, and I think that this new ordinance corrects that. So I'm excited about that, and I want to share that, and more to come on that in terms of the development of that naming panel. I will say that the first people to serve on that panel are absolutely vital, because they will be developing the process and the systems to actually have this work. There'll be a lot more public input into naming, and they'll have to be thinking about it over the course of an entire year. The second update is specifically about the naming panel for Don Young, and that came before us. Not this last meeting, but the meeting before, and I asked for that to be postponed for more consideration, and then it came back before us at this most recent meeting, and we learned that the naming panel had not properly publicly noticed their meeting, and so the assembly voted to send it back to the naming panel for them to start the process over again. And I will just say that now, and then we also received the transcripts from those meetings. And I just have to say that that whole process is really concerning to me, because it is, we essentially asked 4 people to rename the Port of Alaska to the Don Young Port, and there was 0 public input. And so that's an incredibly huge decision, and it has nothing to do with whether you think it should be named Don Young or not, but that decision should not be put in 4 people's hands in a room by themselves, primarily with the administration leading the entire process. And so I'm concerned about that, and I think that this committee should be concerned with it, and that. So I think that's an open conversation. At this point, the action of the assembly sends it back to the naming panel. They're going to have to make some decisions about what they want to do. A number of folks have reached out to me since that, and said, well, what are the naming panel's options? Could they vote as a naming panel to refer it to this new commission so that they don't have to make that decision? Could they change it in some way? So that's all in their hands at this point. But I wanted to make sure that you folks were updated on what's going on there. And at this point, that's what the action was. It sent it back to the naming panel, and we'll see where it goes from there.
So question I have for that is when does this 9-person panel kick in?
So the law has been passed at this point, and so it's in the hands at this point of the mayor to recommend. There is some pieces and parts there, so it's brand new. So I think that's a conversation for the administration at this point. Like, what is your plan in terms of beginning to collect names for this panel? There are, as I said, certain seats that have requirements in terms of who's in those seats. But the process is that it goes through the normal boards and commissions process, and people apply for it. Hopefully once that's made public, and then the mayor recommends people to the assembly, but they have to be approved by the assembly in order to be seated. So that's the process at this point.
Okay, so until that panel gets named, this 4-person panel is still in charge.
So one of the things that happened is that if a panel was currently in process when this passed, that we would allow them to finish their work. And so that's why this panel, the Don Young panel, and there's a few others that are currently in process. There's part of the language allows them to continue and complete their process.
Okay, so there was no process for that whole agenda being kind of shut down until this panel is named. There was no process for that.
So I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, the panel is in place now.
Oh, for the Don Young panel.
Yeah, could the decision could it have been postponed until the new panel was in place, or was that an option?
It probably was an option. That's not what the assembly acted on. And I will just say, because I've been in contact with some of them, that it's clear to me that the problems that occurred in terms of that particular panel, that panel, I think, unlike others, was primarily led by the administration. So that was my understanding was that those failure to announce it and publicly announce it and those kinds of things, those weren't the fault of the panelists. Because the current administration, whomever's in office, they're the ones that actually run those panels and manage them and staff them. So I don't want to blame any of the panel members, because they're volunteers, they're committed to doing that work, and I think in this case tried. But as we see from the transcripts, there were some concerns around it.
Thank you, and I see Ms. Spear had to board a plane, so she had to get off. So that's.
No, I was just thinking about assembly meetings that I've witnessed in the past when it comes to individuals wanting to serve on various commissions and being overlooked, or I just recall here recently witnessing some of what happens when individuals put their name forward, even overqualified for various positions. And so I just offer that because I'm concerned, since this is initiated by the mayor, the outcome. I'm sorry, you know me, I just speak truth. So
if I could just respond to that, and actually Felix and I just recently had this conversation. I'm working to develop some resources for the administration, and I'm going to be working with Daryl Hesselholm, Ombudsman, to do what we can to provide the resources for the administration to do this right. And Felix spoke out in a recent meeting that this first group to serve on this commission is absolutely vital. And I do not believe that the Assembly will approve members of this panel unless they feel like that they are the right people to be the first group here. And the other thing that I'll say is that the selection process is done by the mayor, but we're going to be following this thing very closely. It's really important, I think, to all of us. And so I would encourage anybody who's listening to this meeting to once the opportunity is presented to apply to serve on this commission, I would really encourage people to do so. I hope to get a lot of people who apply for it so that we can get a really strong first group. If you looks like your hand up. You would like anything?
Yeah, thanks. So I just wanted to add one thing, which is just in case anyone's like under the assumption that we could do it a different way. That is not the case. The municipal charter clearly states that the mayor appoints and the assembly votes yes or no. The only way we could do something different is if we put a change to the charter before the voters. So just want to make that super clear to folks. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Laura.
You said that there were some really clear guidelines for who would be eligible to serve. Could you either share in a way that could come to us what those guidelines are?
Yes, and I can, we can actually ask to have the ordinance distributed, but it's very clear in there in terms of there are seats with particular guidelines in terms of who sits in that seat. And then there are guidelines that the commission goes through in actually making their decision, and then there are timelines that they're required to meet in terms of bringing a report to the assembly and having public conversations about what is going to be named and who is going to be. And the other thing I would just say is that there's pretty strong language in there that I hope will move us to very rarely naming things after people. Because in my research in doing this, I've found that most cities, when they're really working on their sort of long-term planning as a city, they're not using every opportunity for something to be named after a person. You can name them after landscapes, you can name them after historical events, you can name them after just Mountain View, right? Mountain View is a beautiful name for an area, right? These kinds of names are really common. So I think moving away of naming major things after people and moving, and it says this in the ordinance, to sort of smaller interior things after people. So big, huge parts of our city, in my perspective, should rarely, if ever, be named after a person. And so that's, I think, one of the shifts that we hope to see. But yes, we'll make sure to get that language out to you guys so you can see specifically what the seats are and what the guidelines are.
Yeah, something that speaks to the community, but possibly which it fits. Yeah. But anyway, Ms. Jazz, is that possible to email that to the committee? Thank you. All righty. Thank you guys so much for that, and we're gonna move on. Our time is getting close, and next on the agenda is identifying a committee member to become a liaison for the Housing and Homelessness Committee, and they normally meet on the third Wednesday of each month. The next meeting is the 18th, and possibly, do we have someone who might want to volunteer to be a liaison from this group to the Housing and Homelessness Committee?
Does it say what time those meetings are?
11 a.m. to 12:30 on the third Wednesday, which is the 18th. It's the third Wednesday of each month, 11 to 12:30. Middle of the day, right at lunchtime.
And that's here?
Yeah, in this office.
Yes, it's right here. So anyone would like to be a liaison and represent our committee on that committee?
I can, if nobody, let's look at, make sure nobody wants.
Is there anyone else that would like to? All right, like you read.
Maybe we should ask one more time. We're talking to everyone that is on Zoom. If you're interested in serving as a liaison on the homeless committee, just put your hand up on screen and we'll
And Chair, one thing you might consider is that it's a long commitment to be the only one, that you could, usually have different people who can commit to going to that meeting and coming back and reporting out, so just a thought.
Right.
So Celeste, if you do it, maybe it's not permanent. Maybe you can do it once and then get someone else.
Why do I have a feeling that it's gonna be permanent?
He's making it palatable.
I'll start out.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Celeste.
Celeste. We support you.
Yeah, thanks for taking that on.
Appreciate
Wow.
that, appreciate that,
Quiet.
appreciate that.
Glad to hear, didn't it?
Through the chair, they also record that meeting, so if you can't make everyone, we do offer it online.
Good. And just FYI, while we're passing committees, could you give me a timeline, Jazz, for the Rules Committee meeting, when that typically meets? Yeah, just for my FYI on that passing.
It's all regular.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Ms. Celeste, for that. That makes that short work, and we'll move forward. Our time is short. Do we have any new member nominations? Hearing none, we'll move on to our committee updates. Anyone have any updates as it relates to community or organizational events, projects, and what have you?
Teresa, are you still out there? I have an event, it actually.
I am.
Oh, would you like to do, all the lonely people?
Oh, sure. So, let's see. I wasn't prepared to do this, so I don't have my dates and times all set, but it is, so AARP is hosting a movie at the Bear Tooth on Wednesday, October 4th.
6 to 8.
And the movie is All the Lonely People, and basically it talks about, it's a film, some filmmakers came and they started in Alaska. They filmed an LGBTQ couple out in Matsu, and they kind of go across countries and various places and talk with older folks and younger folks all about social isolation, really, and what you can do about it. But it's a free movie that will be, I'm trying to find the time, I just want to make sure I get it right.
6 to 8 on October 4th at the Bear Tooth, dinner included.
Yeah, so the doors will open at 5. And I can send the registration, because we do have a limited number of seats, so if you would like to come, we would love it if you would register, so I can send that, and it can get sent out to this group.
And I'll just add, this is supported by Identity, Alaska Rainbow Elders, Choosing Our Roots, and so on. So I encourage everyone, because loneliness in this community is an issue. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys for that update. Anyone else have an update?
This is until 2024, but I just want to let everyone know that the Betty Davis African American Summit is coming up. It's an annual event. It's going to be held at the Betty Davis East Anchorage High School, and it is on February the 10th in celebration of Black History Month. So there will be tabling opportunities, presentations, speakers, just the regular forum, and it's going to be good.
Thank you, Celeste. Any other updates? Hearing none.
I do.
Yes.
So, this coming Saturday, the 30th of September, there will be a Maui benefit concert. H3 will be the main band. There are going to be some island dancing and other performers. It's put together by the Alaska Heritage Center, the First Alaskans Institute, Pacific Community of Alaska, the Hewitt Communications, Susan Anderson, and Corvello. It's to benefit Maui, and so it's actually Alaska for Maui concert. So if you are available with your family, it is a free event. There's going to be some food vendors out there to get some food, and it's open for all. And so it's at the Alaska Heritage Center. Doors open at 6, show starts at 7, and I think it goes until midnight. So bring your checkbooks, and there's going to be some cake auctions and some restaurant certificate auctions and other things to support the work in Maui. Thank you.
Thank you, Tavi.
I just have a question. Did you say till midnight? Coffee?
Yes.
Some people can I remember back in the day.
Yeah.
It's a concert. It's a concert.
Yeah, back in the
Right.
day. Back in the day, yeah. Let me,
Like, did you say midnight? Like, people are awake at midnight?
I'm in bed by like 8.
let me, all righty. Any other updates? Our time is getting short. Any other updates? I'll give a couple on Friday night, October 20th. The MLK Foundation of Alaska is hosting a family night at the movies, and it's for basically for youth, but families are invited to share together as a family, and the movie will be entitled "I Am King," relative to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and will be hosted at New Season Church out on International Airport Road, right over that. So that's on Friday the 20th of October. And also, since we're doing 2024, the MLK annual celebration is on the 14th of January, and sponsorships are available. So just want to put that out there.
I have a couple to share.
Ma'am?
I forgot that tomorrow is, they do have, I believe they have something at the Senior Center, Anchorage Senior Center, called I Am Anchorage. So they're having it from, I believe it's at 4 o'clock in the evening till 6 for a couple hours. So it's open to anyone, and it's a free event for the community. And then we also have a Polynesian Association of Alaska is hosting their gala on December 1st at the Nana, and tables are open online. So if you want to support our work, go on powwoalaska.com. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any others? All right. Any other updates? All right. Hearing none, we'll move to our assembly updates if we have any. Cam, Felix.
I feel like we've given quite a bit of updates tonight, so
Yeah.
unless Felix has anything he wants to add, I don't have anything.
All right. Anything else to add, Felix?
I'm good, thanks.
All right. Good to be good. I like that. All righty. Not having any. Then we'll move to our basically our final deal here on the computer data presentation discussion. We have follow-up with technical assistance award from Change Lab, and that work was to be completed by the 31st of December. But Teresa, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. Sorry, my camera is not working, but so I was talking with Change Labs. We were kind of trying to figure out, because this group hasn't quite decided which policies they want to look at, and we were running out of time. So what we came to the conclusion was we want them to be able to do a good job, and we don't want them to have to rush. So we will put in again for that technical assistance grant in January, and then have a whole year to work on it. I think that's probably the best way to go. So that's where we're at with that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Teresa, for your willingness to share that. That technical assistance, I'm speaking of, your willingness to share it with this particular committee. And thank you for that update. And I think that would better serve all of us in being prepared and ready to do a good job with that. And so thank you again for that, and thank you for the update. All right, any questions or commentary about that? All right, good. All right. right, we're down to the wrap up and prep for our next meeting and identify questions or other items to forward to the assembly if we have any actions to be completed before next meeting. And a couple of things I'll say is I will follow up with, very apologetically, I'll follow up with Ms. Alexis Johnson and see if we can get her scheduled to give us her input in our next meeting. And so we'll relay our apologies for not being able to get in and ask her to do it on next meeting. And maybe her time will be more apropos for not having to cut out so shortly in this particular meeting. So we'll do that. And then the other thing is nothing to forward to the assembly, but actions to be completed. Maybe not by, but maybe during next meeting. We may want to target someone who might be willing to avail themselves to be a liaison from this particular committee to the Rules Committee. And depending on the timeline, that's one I may consider. But just throw it out there and put it on our agenda for our next meeting, and we'll look at that.
The Rules Committee is the second week of the month on Thursday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Oh, from 1 to 3? Okay, on the second week on Thursdays. Okay, thank you, Jazz. All righty, so we'll look at that.
I just had one other thing.
Yes.
Sorry, real quick. When we were discussing the naming panel and you said that would be of interest to this committee, the other thing that I think would maybe warrant an update at the next meeting as the situation develops is just the election integrity and as compromised at the, potentially at the last election and then looking forward to the next one, specifically if there's concern of people being disenfranchised of their vote counting.
Okay. All
Mr.
right.
Chair, I can just give that very briefly. I think that's a great point. There's a long work session that's going to happen tomorrow on that, and that may be something, again, that would be an invitation. For instance, maybe Mr. Constant would be willing to come and give another update on that. There should be a fair amount of information by the next meeting of this group to share out. So, and if you got on his calendar at this point, that might be a really good way to do it. So either the chair or vice chair.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll give that consideration for our next meeting. I'll communicate with our co-chair and we'll see where we go with that.
So I do have one thing that I want to share, and that is the comment that Lori shared about when she testified at the assembly meeting and the feeling that she felt as she was testifying. We talked about that as a committee, to feeling safe in an environment like the assembly meetings and sharing how we feel about equity, our equity work and the importance of equality and stuff. And I'm a little frustrated because I watched that assembly meeting and I saw it. And there's got to be something that can be done to make sure that individuals that share on the subject of equality and equity are protected. And I don't know what that is, but I felt it when you were speaking, and I sensed it. And so I don't know if anybody else watched the assembly meeting and can validate or share, or maybe not, but I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, equality and equity work leaves one with an uneasy feel more often than not, and that's part of the territory, really, to be honest, and somewhat expected.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, when we first formed this committee, there was a conversation about, when the assembly begins their meetings, there is an opportunity for each assembly member to give an update on the committees. And we had talked about, because both Felix and I are not chairs of this committee, whether someone else should give that update or not.
Excuse me just momentarily. We're about 5:59, and let me do this, can we get a hand raised to extend 5 minutes? All right, let's do that.
So just, again, this is probably a conversation with the chair, whether this committee should either provide some key things that either Felix and I share, or whether it's the interest of this committee of taking a few minutes during that time to share updates from this committee. And I only say that in relationship to what you're saying because I think that part of the tension that happens at meetings is trying to manage time. And when someone comes up to testify and is saying something that's really important, it can, I mean, there's other things that were making that meeting tense, but I'm just saying that the time frame of being able to share the things that are important is really hard. So that may be an opportunity for us to think about how this committee gets an opportunity to share out what it's doing with the public and with the assembly by thinking about using a piece of that time.
Okay.
And I would also like to share that, like, I talk all the time in front of people and in public meetings, and there's something particularly difficult about testifying at the assembly. You are down in a pit, you see the backs of screens, your back is to people that you know don't agree with you, and it feels incredibly uncomfortable. I don't like to testify at assembly meetings, I rarely do it, but it was language access, so I could not go. But I never encourage anybody from my community to testify at assembly meetings. I can't convince people, even people with years of experience in meetings and in public spaces, people do not feel safe at the assembly meetings, attending them or testifying in them. And I, of all people, should have felt more comfortable and been clear, but you know, they're hitting the 3 minutes. I mean, I had 3 minutes, I practiced 3 minutes, and they hit the timer before I even said my name, and then Cameron allowed me to finish. But I hear you, and it's just such on top of all the other extra issues, but I'll just put it out there that if we want equity, then we need to create an environment in which people feel comfortable sharing.
And I'm talking about the responses from as I listened to some of the assembly members, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's just multiple issues, just
Yeah.
in general, it's awful.
And those who are in space control, as I would say, the atmosphere as it relates to assembly meetings and whatever. And you said if we want equity and equality, well, we want equity and equality, but that may not be the atmosphere of the space that we are allowed to speak in.
That's what I'm talking
about. And so that's what we really, it's tough, it's hard, but that's what we signed up for. Relative specifically to this committee as it relates to that. Alrighty, any final thoughts, commentary? And forgive me if I get this wrong, is that Mr. Matthew Hurt?
Yes, sir.
Are you assembly or municipality legal?
I'm I am one of the attorneys who are assigned to the assembly.
That's what I wanted to be clear on.
Yes, sir.
I knew you were an attorney and you were here representing, I thought this, so I want to be sure about that.
No, Dean Gates and I are the two attorneys who work full time for the assembly, so that is our client.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for helping me with that. All righty. If there's nothing else, yes. Commentary? Oh, public comment. Public. Any public? All right, I do have a call for it. Thank you. Audience participation. I was about to say, boom. Yeah, all righty. Hearing none, then we just going to declare our meeting closed.